El Grande. How do you say lawyers in Spanish?
Lawyers? Abogados.
El Grande Avocados.
That's not Spanish. That's fruit.
That's fruit. Vegetable at best.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. We just got the finale of Daredevil Born Again Season 1. Go ahead, let me know your thoughts about Season 1 overall in the comments down below. Rate it 1 out of 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. Let me know what you thought about it. And if you are excited for Season 2, there is a lot to break down in this video, so let's not waste any time. Let's get started. It begins with showing us what we learned in the last episode. Wilson Fisk was the one to get Bullseye, or Benjamin Poindexter, out of prison, or at least out of a mental hospital. And here we actually find out why Kingpin never went to jail after Daredevil Season 3 on Netflix. As they showed in Daredevil Season 3, they set up Agent Nadine of the FBI, who tragically died in the final season. They basically set him up as the fall guy, making it seem like he was a corrupt FBI agent, who sadly kind of at the end was borderline corrupt. At the end there, Kingpin basically forced him to become corrupt, but he did try to do the right thing at the end. However, due to his corruption with the FBI, Vanessa explains that that is how Kingpin was able to get acquitted, and now how Benjamin Poindexter, aka Bullseye, is able to get acquitted as well. However, his release was a conditional release pending appeal, meaning he could go back. Not that it would ultimately matter. Wilson Fisk hired him to kill Foggy and another person who she called a thief, who Foggy was going to represent. We learn here that Poindexter is being kept in a mental facility where they basically just drug him up all day, every day, to where he can't really function. In fact, when they go to give him the pills, you can see him reach for the pills as Vanessa takes them away, and he can kind of barely move his hands. So essentially, he is incapacitated due to the drugs that they are giving him. Therefore, he's not really a threat because he can't even use his hands. And that's why Vanessa's offer is very appealing to him, because she says, I can get you your mind back, because he doesn't really have it right now due to all the drugs. So as we know, he gets out, he ends up killing Foggy. Daredevil pushes him off of the building. He somehow survived. They still haven't told us anything about his spine yet, whether it's made of adamantium or not. We probably won't get an answer there. But eventually he ended up back in prison. Then Kingpin tried to get him killed by putting him with the general population in prison instead of being secluded. He broke out, and now he sought revenge on Kingpin. Unfortunately for him and Matt jumped in the way of the bullet, saving Kingpin's life and severely hurting Matt. And as we saw in this episode, it didn't really do any good for Matt Murdock at all, as Kingpin literally sends his task force to Matt Murdock's house to kill him, or possibly capture him so he could keep him there with all of his other trophies. Now Matt wakes up in the hospital with Heather and Kirsten at his side, but the first name he calls out is his ex-girlfriend, Karen. And Heather knows this, so she's a little taken aback by it. But when Matt wakes up, he basically asks if Kingpin and Bullseye are alive. They confirm they both are, and Bullseye is still at large. And from there, Matt just talks about Foggy and the case that he was trying to do against Wilson Fisk. That's why she killed him. He wants to know what it was. Heather hates this because he almost died. And the first thing that he talks about when he wakes up isn't anything about her or him or being grateful that he's alive and she's there by his side. It's about work once again. They were already drifting apart because she thought that he was keeping secrets from her and he was working too much, and now this just kind of proves that to Heather, so she's kind of taken a step back from him once again. She decides to leave, and the next time we see her, she's taken a job with Kingpin despite all the warnings that Matt has told her about Kingpin. Kirsten also realizes something is up, so she says that, hey, when you're finally better, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about what's going on in your life, because you are not the same person, and I need a better partner and friend. Now, as Heather and Matt fall apart, Vanessa and Kingpin get closer than they've ever been before. After Kingpin is almost killed by Bullseye, Vanessa is trying to tell Kingpin that she hired Bullseye to kill Foggy, and she is the reason why he was out of jail in the first place. But Kingpin already knows, and they actually do a really great job in this episode of showing us that Kingpin has eyes everywhere, and he knows a lot about a lot of people. So even when he was gone, he heard about Vanessa hiring Bullseye to kill Foggy. Now, he still told Matt the truth. He really didn't have anything to do with that, although he could have definitely intervened, but he chose not to. And here's where Wilson Fisk reveals to his wife Vanessa that he is back as Kingpin. It was all about Red Hook. He says, I originally ran to be the actual mayor, to try and be a good, clean mayor, but opportunities presented themselves. And now through Red Hook, Vanessa did a great job of kind of setting it up, and she produced millions of dollars and ran them through Red Hook. But now with Kingpin's power, they can run billions of dollars through it. And to top it all off, he is saying that he now, as mayor and as the crime boss Kingpin, runs everything. He runs all of the crime and he runs the police and the city. So basically, he is invincible. And the way that they have structured Red Hook is to where basically it is its own city. So they will make the rules of it. Nobody can really touch him, legally at least. That's what Matt and Karen discover when going through Foggy's records. So Kingpin and Vanessa can't really be touched legally in Red Hook, in the Red Hook district. And because of that, Kingpin knows the only way that he can get taken down is by the vigilantes. The law can't touch him, but vigilantes like Daredevil and Bullseye operate outside of the law, plus not to mention the Punisher, the Defenders, and now they're in the MCU and they've mentioned people like Spider-Man, who of course Kingpin is a classic Spider-Man villain. Who knows if that matchup is ever coming in the MCU? Let's cross our fingers, but the bottom line is Kingpin knows vigilantes are the only people who are going to stop him. So he has a meeting and he says that he wants his task force to go up against all vigilantes and he wants to shut the city down, block off the bridges. But Sheila tells him, yes, the attempt on his life is obviously huge, but legally as mayor, you can't shut down the city unless there is a threat to the public, the overall people of New York. So he decides to make an overall threat against the people himself. We'll get to that in just a bit. First, he tells Buck to go kill Matt Murdock. So just like I predicted in the last episode, in my last video, the fact that Matt saved his life means nothing to Kingpin. It means nothing to him or his wife Vanessa. He automatically, right away, tells Buck to go kill him because he knows that he could spin it in a really great way to make Matt kind of a hero, but at the same time, he knows Matt is Daredevil, so this would be taking Daredevil out of the equation. So again, he doesn't care about anything except for Vanessa, of course, and getting rid of all the vigilantes who could stand in his way. Except it's not just vigilantes as we see in this episode. When he talks to Sheila, he tells her, listen, I know people talk to you. I know you hear a lot of things. If anybody is not on board with what we're doing, send them home, get them out of here. And he's really telling that to her as well. He's really saying, hey, you are with me or against me. You're very wise. I know you see what's going on here. I know you basically see that I'm the Kingpin. I'm not Mayor Fisk anymore, but I am both now. And I'm going to do what I want. So you're either with me or you're against me. Again, he's trying to get rid of anybody that would get in his way. And unfortunately, Sheila does give up Gallo and he suffers just an absolutely terrible fate. And in the scene where Gallo goes to talk to her, you can actually see her very quickly look down at her phone to make sure it's recording because she has made up her mind. She is with Kingpin now. Most likely because she knows that nothing's really going to stand in his way. So if she goes against him, there's a high probability that she might end up dead. That's how a lot of people actually end up siding with Kingpin. They're so afraid of him and everything that he controls and all of his connections that if they don't side with him, he'll basically just kill them. And to be fair, that does happen more often than not with Kingpin. For example, even the driver that gets Gallo, you can tell that obviously they knew each other. He was a rookie and Gallo helped him out. He probably looked up to Gallo, but he even tells him when Gallo sees the Punisher tattoo, I'm just trying to survive. Basically saying, if I go up against Kingpin, I die, so I gotta play ball. Now, like I mentioned, Sheila said you can't really enact martial law and shut down the bridges to the city unless there's a threat against the overall public of New York City. So Kingpin makes one, and he does so with the person that Sheila sends in to talk to Kingpin after she is done. We don't see what happened, but we know what happened. He talks to him and basically coerces him or tells him something has to be done to turn the power out to the entire city. So he does that as a part of his plan. He does that so this way, one, all of the security cameras are cut off, but two, so riots and looting and everything will start happening, which gives him a reason to enact martial law, but we'll get to that in a bit. Luckily for Matt at the hospital, he has his heightened senses and he can hear the exact footstep of Buck coming in, and he knows that's not good, and the only reason he's probably coming is to kill him. So luckily he manages to escape, he makes it back home, and notice his smile right when he walks into his apartment. He gives a little smirk and he shakes his head. This is because he automatically senses that Frank is there in his apartment. So he lays down and he acknowledges that. Now Frank says that the only reason he's there is because somebody called in a favor, and he promised that he would get Matt out of there alive. Now he doesn't tell him who, but of course we go on to find out that it is Karen Page. Now Frank says there's a van full of people waiting for them outside. Did you catch that? And Daredevil said, yeah, I caught it. So they both know that they have limited time before they break in and try to kill them. And Frank makes it pretty clear to Matt, if they come up here, I'm killing them. And he calls them fanboys because they are wearing his logo, the Punisher logo. And he specifically tells Matt this because he knows Matt doesn't believe in killing people. Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, though, does not hold the same beliefs. To him, he goes and he kills the criminals because he considers himself the judge, jury, and executioner. Matt believes people can get redeemed or they get taken care of by the justice system. However, Frank believes that he simply kills them and they are no longer a threat to society. If they're dead, they can't go on to harm or kill any more people because Frank only goes after criminals. He doesn't go after innocent people. But they both know the anti-vigilante task force works for Kingpin. They're doing his bidding. They're very dirty. They're corrupt and they're rocking his Punisher logo, so they're gonna die. So Matt tells him that's not the kind of help I'm looking for, as in he doesn't want to kill people. But Frank says, well, too bad. I'm getting you out alive and that's how I'm gonna do it. That's the help you get. But before Matt goes up and gets ready in his Daredevil outfit, Frank asks him, why would you take a bullet for Kingpin? And you could tell at the time, Matt probably took it because he still believed in redemption. He didn't believe Kingpin was the one who had Foggy killed. He knew it was Vanessa. So perhaps he had a little bit of hope that Kingpin really was trying to be good. However, after Buck came to kill him in the hospital and now the task force is waiting outside to kill him as well, he realizes that there probably isn't any redemption for Kingpin, so he tells Frank, I don't know. I don't know why I took the bullet for him. But then Matt goes upstairs to suit up, and that's why he comes down through the roof window to start attacking the task force because his suit is kept upstairs on the rooftop. Frank pops in as well and instantly begins shooting people in the head, in the face, keeping true to his word that he is killing people. He's doing things his way. During the fight, Matt actually says, Frank, stop, because he realizes that he's killing people, but Frank just continues. In fact, right after he says stop, he puts about 5 bullets in this guy's head. He keeps shooting until Cole North actually interrupts him by shooting him. Frank turns very quickly and shoots him back in the arm. Daredevil and Punisher continue to fight. Frank continues to kill people. Then Agent North grabs a gun and he's about to shoot Daredevil, but Frank ends up throwing a knife into the arm of Agent North and it goes into the wall, basically pinning him there. From there, Frank sees a shell on the ground that has the Punisher logo on it. And this is a callback to when Matt originally visited Frank, showing him the shell that had his logo on it. So when Frank sees it, he automatically knows Matt was looking for specifically this person, Cole North. And Matt automatically realizes this is the person who shot Hector Ayala, the White Tiger. Now, in this moment, North grabs his radio and he tells whoever's on the other line that Frank Castle is there. And this ties directly into a scene coming up where they try to recruit the Punisher, but we'll get to that. Frank grabs the radio because he knows he's got to go after these, what he refers to as fanboys, these crooked cops rocking his logo. Matt confronts North and he tells him, you're the one who killed Hector, aren't you? And he starts to kind of get flashbacks and feel the pain of losing Hector, of losing Foggy. And he contemplates killing him, but in the moment he actually realizes who he is. He is Daredevil and he doesn't believe in killing people. And he tells Frank it's not worth it. Frank tells him, do it, Red. But he still says it's not worth it. And when he says that, what he's referring to basically is his conscience and his Catholic beliefs. It's not worth taking a life because of the damage that it will do to yourself. Even if this person can't be redeemed, there's no reason to get taking a life put on your soul, on your conscience. But Frank does not care. Frank goes to kill him. He ends up killing another guy who was badly wounded already. They start arguing until Matt hears a grenade has been thrown into the room, so they gotta run. They jump out the window and Matt grabs Frank mid-air, uses his grappling hook to get them to safety. They land kind of hard, but they get out. Karen shows up and takes him back to Frank's place, obviously revealing that Karen is the one who called Frank. Frank stitches himself up, which is something that he's really used to, especially if you've seen the Punisher series. And speaking of the Punisher series, the last time that we saw Karen and Frank together was in the Punisher Season 2. Throughout the Punisher series, they showed us that Frank and Karen were really close to each other and that it's probably not a platonic connection, implying that there was some romance involved. And although in the Punisher Season 2, Karen did say you cannot keep loving people in your dreams, and she told him that you could love someone else instead of another war, basically implying that it could be her, Frank ultimately said that he is going to continue killing because he doesn't want to stop killing. He's going to go after more criminals and that Karen should stay away from him. So we presume that this is the first time that they have seen each other since then, and we can clearly tell in this scene that some romance is still there. Karen tries to inspect Frank to make sure he's okay, and when he looks at her, you can tell he's really glad to see her. And she's really glad to see him as well. Now, on the other hand, Matt is her ex-boyfriend. They did date in the Netflix Daredevil series, so a bit of a love triangle here. And Matt realizes this too because he can hear both of their heartbeats, which he goes on to reveal. Matt reveals to Karen that it was a hit against Foggy taken out by Vanessa. She hired Bullseye. He still doesn't know why yet, but Karen reveals that his files, Foggy's files, are still in storage. Matt needs Karen to help him because the files are most likely not in Braille, so he won't be able to read them. He says, "Will you be my eyes?" She says, "Of course." But Frank is not going with them. He says he has stuff to do himself, and that is take care of the fanboys, the corrupt cops who work for Fisk. Now, before Karen leaves, she tells Frank, "I don't buy it that you don't care." And Frank basically says in his own way, "I do care." He says, "Hey, you asked for a favor. I did it." Telling Karen, "I care about you. I care about Matt. That's why I did the favor." Meanwhile, Kingpin's corruption is basically no longer being hidden. Daniel and Buck meet with the Council of New York City. And they basically say, hey, look, you're either on board with Kingpin or you're not. And they also reveal at the same time, Kingpin knows everything about them, all the dirt on them. So basically, play ball or your life is going to be hell or over. And this does really show us that Buck knew the entire time who Kingpin really was. Yes, Wilson Fisk became the mayor, but he was still Kingpin. And this is pretty much what I believe Daniel wanted the entire time. He wanted power, and he knew Kingpin could give him that. Now, in the meantime, the power to the entire city is still off, and riots and looting is going crazy within the city. There's destruction and chaos everywhere. This is all a part of Kingpin's plan, and as the cops murder, not necessarily a totally innocent civilian, but definitely didn't warrant death, we start to realize more of his plan. As they kill this young man, they claim that he was a masked vigilante, and they put a mask over him. And what's interesting is this looks pretty much almost exactly like Daredevil's original outfit from the Daredevil Netflix series. What Kingpin is doing is giving himself a reason as mayor of New York to make being a vigilante illegal, stating that the people who were doing these riots and these loots, a big part of why they happened were because of the vigilantes, which again would give him another reason to enact martial law. Now, at the storage, Karen and Matt are searching for Foggy's files. Matt does mention that he heard Frank and Karen's heartbeats, implying that he knows there's something between them, whether that's romance or something else. Karen says, "Are you jealous?" And Matt is a little bit jealous here, but she also asks if he heard her heartbeat when she saw him, and he says, "I did." So he knows that Karen cares for her as well. Also, a nice little callback to the original Daredevil series, specifically when they did a flashback to when Matt and Foggy were roommates in college together, in law school, before they were lawyers.
We're gonna be the best damn avocados this city's ever seen.
And in the scene, Foggy asks Matt how to say lawyers in Spanish, and he says abogados. Then Foggy says avocados at law, and that is the inside joke that Karen never got because she didn't know them then, she wasn't with them then, and they never did explain it to her. And in this scene, they explain what we've already talked about, where Karen goes over the charter that she finds of Red Hook, and it says definition of free port, which says basically any customs, duties, taxes, or tariffs, anything that they could basically charge monetarily are exempted. So no duties, taxes, or anything like that. Exemption from taxation, all goods, wares, merchandise imported or exported from the port of Red Hook are exempt from taxation. And then administration and oversight, which states that basically the appointed officers and officials of the state of New York, they are responsible for overseeing Red Hook, and that is Kingpin. So basically, Kingpin does have all of the power with Red Hook, and he can smuggle in just a ton of money and do a ton of illegal operations without anybody standing in the way, because he is the person who is in charge of it both criminally and legally as the mayor of New York City. And now he's building basically a complex there to where he's going to live and do illegal operations, and nobody's going to be able to touch him. He is literally about to rule New York City in its entirety. Meanwhile, Frank, over the radio that he took from Agent North, hears the rest of the corrupt cops, the anti-vigilante task force, say that they're going back to Red Hook. So that's where Frank is going to go. Now, when he gets there, notice they say that they just want to talk. And even when they're shooting him, they're not shooting him with live ammunition, real bullets, because they're not trying to kill him. They want to capture him for themselves and also for Kingpin. And after taking out a lot of them in a very gruesome way, they finally do get him. Once they tie him down, they ultimately ask him if he wants to join them and basically do what he's been doing in a way that could now be legitimate. Under Kingpin, he wouldn't actually be breaking any laws. But that's because they don't actually know who Frank Castle is or what he believes in. They just think that he's some gun-toting, trigger-happy person who likes killing. But that's not who Frank is at all. He kills specific people who are criminals. He doesn't go about just killing random people, and he considers himself to be doing what the law and justice can't do. That's why he kills. And it's also the pain of his whole entire family, his wife and 2 kids being killed, that drives him as well, because they were killed due to corruption in legal government entities. So he sets out to kill the corruption. And that's what he tells them, basically. You have no idea who I am. You have no idea what I believe. You have no idea what my pain is. And they basically show that they idolize him because he kills a lot, showing that they truly don't know anything about Frank Castle, the Punisher. And ultimately, they do end up locking him up in a cage along with a lot of other people who had power or are vigilantes themselves, like swordsmen. And they're kind of there like trophies to Kingpin. But we'll talk about this when we break down the post-credit scene. The end of Daredevil Born Again, episode 9, is basically Daredevil realizing that he can't just go in there and take on Kingpin. There's too many people. They all have guns. They have weaponry. He's going to need what he refers to as an army. And originally I thought he might have been referring to the Defenders, and we've heard some rumors they might show up. So perhaps they do join his so-called army in season 2. We'll have to wait and see on that. We'd also heard that Josie's is going to be the meeting place for Daredevil and the people who are going to be on his side. And we see them actually meet there at the end of this episode. For now, his army consists of basically good cops that want to take the city back. In there, we see Agent Kim, we see Cherry, and we see Josie, who doesn't exactly know that Matt is Daredevil yet, although I'm sure that's coming pretty soon. Kingpin addresses the city and makes it seem like the blackout was an attack and was a result of the vigilantes' attack. He even claims that he survived this whole attack with New York City as well. They all survived together. And he even says that Chief Gallo resigned, even though, of course, he killed him. But due to everything that happened, the vigilante attacks, the blackouts, the riots that he is pinning on vigilantes once again, and the chief of police resigning, aka Kingpin killed him, that all makes him declare martial law. Martial law is, according to the U.S. Department of Justice, the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule. Basically, the military is used and is in charge. When martial law is in effect, the military commander of an area or country has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws. So in this scenario, that is Kingpin. He is the person in charge, so he now has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws. The first one that he did was making being a vigilante illegal. So now, basically, Kingpin can do whatever he wants. And the only thing standing in his way now is Daredevil and the team or his army that he's about to gather and go up against Kingpin with. And that is where this episode and this season ends. However, there was a mid-credit scene. At the end, we saw Kingpin go back to his evil lair, we'll call it, and we basically saw everybody that he talked to at the gala that he had that went against him locked up in cages like animals. In one of those cages was the Punisher, and in the mid-credit scene, he tricks a guard into actually going and shaking his hand. You would never do this. But for the sake of the story, it could have been a new guard. He might have been really nervous about everything, and he might have felt a little bad for the Punisher. So the Punisher tricks him, he goes and shakes his hand, and of course, Frank grabs him, pulls his arm in, breaks his arm, grabs the keys, and we know that Frank is now going to escape. From there, what's most likely going to happen is he's going to get in contact with Karen Page or Matt Murdock, most likely Karen though. And from there, he will join Daredevil. And in season 2 and all-out war is most likely going to break out in New York City with Daredevil and his good cops and the rest of his army against Kingpin and his bad cops. So season 1 was fantastic. I loved season 1, but what they're setting up for season 2 sounds like it's going to be insanely epic. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode, and what did you think of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on our Daredevil Season 2 breakdowns, and of course our everyday Marvel videos about news, leaks, and rumors. You can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.